Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are and when you are viewing this. Hi. Oh, thank you, darling. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but my computer speaks to me in a British voice, a male British voice at the top of the hour. Anyway, I'm Casey Durango of Go Keto with Casey, where I talk about how I lost 97.4 pounds after starting the ketogenic protocol, how you may be able to lose weight, improve your health, and regain control of your life like I did. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your day. And a big welcome to those of you who are here live. I look forward to hearing your comments and questions and feedback and observations and all that. A short little introduction for those of you who may be here for the first time on this on Crowdcast on this platform. You can enter questions. You don't have to, and unless you ask me not to, I can share them on screen. The actual text of the question is pretty cool, and I very much appreciate all of you who jump in. And for those of you who may be new to my story or to the ketogenic protocol, I will share how I learned it and as how I have practiced it for now 11 and a half years. Keep your carbohydrate intake to 20 grams or fewer a day. Total carbs, not net carbs. Why not net carbs? Because net carbs is just more carbs. Eat fatty sources of protein, limited amounts of full fat dairy, limited amounts of non starchy vegetables. Don't eat if you're not hungry. Stop eating when you've had enough. Those are the hard parts. And by the way, the dairy and the vegetables are not obligatory. So you don't have to eat them if you don't want them. Main thing is eat fatty sources of protein. Don't eat if you're not hungry. Stop eating when you've had enough. And I've added be patient and persevere. So that's that. Today's topic is actually, there's a bug flying around me. Sorry. Self forgiveness is a good thing. So is self awareness. Now, what do I mean by that? We have to ultimately strike a balance between giving ourselves some grace and holding our own feet to the fire. So I'll talk about that in a minute. I want to say hey to some of the folks who are here, and I just randomly go. So Kimberly writes, "Good morning, everyone." And Karen Callahan writes, "Good morning from Utah. Mother Hubbard, so glad to be with you, friends. It has been a tough week in Lake Wobegon and here in Chicagoland." I like the Lake Wobegon reference, Prairie Home Companion. I'm sorry things have been tough. Let's get to that in a minute. So I do want to ask Karen, if she is comfortable doing it, to share how are things with her and her dear husband, who is has been in hospice, in home hospice. Now, from the very profound to my opinions, which are not very profound. You know, we can get in a cycle of 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 feeling like abject failures. And that can ultimately be a self-fulfilling prophecy. "Oh, I never can stick to anything. I can never lose weight. I've tried 1,000 times." And then there's the other side where we might tell ourselves, or we see one of those memes on a Facebook group, you know, fall down a fall down 1,000 times, get back up 1,001. That's good too. That's a good thing. But at some point, we have to strive to not fall down, right? It's good to forgive ourselves or give ourselves grace, which is a nice way to put it. It's also good to quit having to give ourselves so much grace because we keep doing the same thing over and over again that we know will not work for us, right? Um, and we do have to strike a balance. I always go back to what a weird species humans are. We don't find that our dogs have to keep forgiving themselves for anything. And they don't try to do the same thing wrong every time. They pretty much try to make their their pack happy, and particularly their pack leader. By the way, check in on Jack. Jack is a very old dog. He is not in the background today. I decided it was stressing him out more. because he's kind of compelled to come get cookies. He's asleep on the replacement bed in the other room, hopefully comfortable, but he's dwindling. Okay, so that said, so how do we do that? How do we say, yeah, I screwed up for I was obese for 30 years. Well, I was overweight. I didn't go straight from, a size 7 to morbidly obese. But starting in my mid 20s with the pregnancy of our second child, I put on 60 pounds and just didn't lose any. And from there, the emotional component comes in. I was a young mother with two small children, a toddler and a newborn, and my husband was working 3 jobs so that I could stay at home, which was great, but I was at home far from family, frankly, without a car. So then you start, and plus it was the low fat craze. So I figured I could eat a pot of spaghetti. It was low fat, get my mind off of my troubles. So I'd eat when the babies were asleep. Anyway, so I made all kinds of excuses for myself. And then I would try to bolster myself up. And then I'd try again. And then I'd strumble. And then I'd make an excuse for myself. And then it got to be less of bolstering myself up and more of just throwing my hands up and saying, I can't do this. I mean, over the course of 30 years. I tried and tried and tried. You can go to my blog, caseydurango.com, link below, and see some photos of the summer of the triathlons. I wore a bright blue bathing suit with cycling shorts over it. I looked like that character from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, Violet, who eats too much bubble gum and she turns into a giant blue ball. That's the way I looked. So anyway, years and years and years and years, I gave up. Didn't want to take insulin for type 2 diabetes. Googled how to not take insulin for type 2 diabetes. The answer is reduce your carbohydrate intake. And don't eat if you're not hungry. I mean, that sounds too simplistic, but I was ready for it, so I did it. Now, over the course of time, we don't want to keep telling ourselves we're a failure or a screw up. So we'll say, okay, Monday's another day. I'll try again. And then, at some point, we have to realize that next Monday is nothing magical about it. Right now is what we have. And explanations, sometimes they're not explanations, they're excuses. Because one of the few things we have over which we have control is what we put in our mouth. We don't want to admit that. We don't want to accept that. We don't want to accept responsibility. Much easier to order some Bojangles with French fries and eat all of it than to say, is this really going to do me any good? Do I have some control over this? Yes, we have control. I didn't want to claim control. I would keep forgiving myself, and then I would screw up again. So when I say self-awareness, I mean when you recognize, you know what? I am not a person that can eat that food and be healthy and happy. I need to be aware of that. Some other people can. Others can't. I'm one of the others. We can have the pity party, which is a very popular party, and say, why is it that my cousin can eat all that food and they're thin and trim and athletic and happy, and I eat that exact same food and I blow up like a puffer fish? Because that's why. The skinny cousin has their own struggles, no doubt. Some things are easier for some people. And some things are harder for those very same people than they might be for me. Right? It might be easier for somebody else to just say, well, I'm just going to limit myself to this and I'm going to do it and I'll never veer off the path, which might be easier for them than, say, for me. And that person might struggle with speaking into a camera to a bunch of people on a weekly basis and speaking complete paragraphs. It comes easily to me. So let's first admit that we all have strengths and we all have challenges. And we shouldn't compare notes on who's got it harder or easier because we all have a lot of it. So let's be self forgiving. We can't go back in the past and change anything. Yes, you can't go back and change what I did even 15 minutes ago, but I can be aware of my behavior, my actions. I can be aware of how my actions impact me and how they impact others, and I can move forward. And we have to do this with food, and it's hard when you've got food manufacturers saying, here's a great snack, and it happens to be a drumstick chocolate covered waffle cone. They're calling it a snack. Ice cream is not a snack. It should be an occasional treat for people who can eat ice cream. You go to a drumstick nutrition information, and it has 20 grams of carbohydrate just in the one. So we are pummeled with information, but we have got to be self-aware enough to realize, yeah, it's great for the people in the commercials. Just like, oh, the 19-year-old who's trying to sell me anti-wrinkle cream. Okay, I'm not going to fall for that. I didn't have any wrinkles when I was 19 either. And I didn't put any cream on. I still don't. Maybe I should. Vaseline is my cream of choice. So we have to give ourselves grace, and we have to hold our own feet to the fire. And for each person, those are different things. And there's no shame in having to hold our own feet to the fire. Just because it's a challenge doesn't mean we can't do it, and it doesn't mean it's a weakness. Just because I am challenged by certain things doesn't mean I'm weak. It means I have certain challenges. And other things I'm not challenged by. So that's what I'm thinking. I don't know. Let me turn my attention to the lovely people who are here. If you're watching this on replay, because I posted on YouTube, you can watch it on a replay on Crowdcast. You can also watch the replay on YouTube, but you won't see the comments. And if you would like, Crowdcast is not a spammy thing. You register for it, and then you get a notification for all my public events. I also do live streams for patrons only. Speaking of which, I have a private support group on patreon.com, link below, where you get for $5 a month 20 pre-recorded video snippets on a variety of topics, recorded right here in my kitchen without makeup, sometimes before coffee, and often with Jack interrupting. You can do a free trial for 7 days. If you like it, you stay. If you don't, you won't. And also, I appreciate the support. There's a support button. I appreciate thumbs up and subscribers. Here comes Mr. Jack, coming in to check and see how I'm doing. He likes it when he can see both my husband and I at the same time. When he can't, he has to kind of go back and forth and check, make sure we're here. Okay, I think that's all the commercials. Oh, Green Book. You can go to my blog. This is a journal of different quotations and tracking and habit tracker and coloring pages and goal setting and all that stuff. And t-shirts. You can see links to my spread shop below. I'll sell you a t-shirt and a mug and a sticker all day long, but you don't have to buy anything to be 100% successful at this. Not a thing. Certainly not a food product. Let me go ahead. Okay, first I'm gonna come up here and post Ms. Karen from Utah. I asked about her husband. Everything is about the same. He's just struggling to keep weight on, but no pain. Oh, that's good. He's on liquids, lots of sugar, because of his inability to swallow well with the esophageal cancer. But he's amazing. Well, we will be thinking of you, Karen. I think about you a lot, actually, during the week. Karen is a patron as well, and I appreciate that. Good morning from sunny Michigan, writes Doris, and Kimberly writes, I love this topic to get today. Kimberly, do you want to share? And Mother Hubbard, if you want to share what's been going on in Lake Wobegon that's not so great? Is it the Reverend, is it Einfeld? Reverend, I can't remember the characters' names. They tend to be Northern European, Norwegian. The Norwegian bachelor farmers, I tend to remember that. You know, it is good to encourage others. That's great. If someone comes to you, like, if I don't know, close confidant or a family member or a coworker says, and just, for the umpteenth time bemoans the fact that life is so hard for them and they keep screwing up. I mean, at some point, you just want to, shake them by the shoulders and say, well, stop screwing up, right? I mean, it's not kind, but if you've heard something 15 times, well, stop doing that then. Doctor, my head is killing me. Why? Well, I keep hitting my head against the brick wall. Well, stop doing that. There's an episode of the original Dick Van Dyke Show where his brother, Jerry, comes and his heart is broken, and his girlfriend broke his heart. And everyone's very sympathetic with them, and Laura's very supportive, and Rob is very supportive, and everyone's all poor Jerry, and he would break down he would do something, he'd mess up, and he would, didn't show up for something he's supposed to show up for. He says, well, I just can't get over how, she broke my heart, Rob. Nobody knows how I feel. And for the first, 18 minutes of the 20-minute episode, it was, yeah, Jerry, of course, that's right. Well, ultimately, Rob says, after the hearing, nobody knows how I feel for the fifth time, he says, Jerry, everybody knows how you feel. Everyone has had their heart broken. Everyone knows how you feel. You just got to suck it up, buttercup. Of course, he didn't say that. But we have to do that for ourselves as well. Have a little talk with ourselves in the mirror or any other reflective surface. And Kimberly writes, thanks for the update, Karen. Praying. Here's Karen. Now, Karen did keto, and then correct me if I'm wrong on citing your history, Karen. Went vegetarian for a while and did that, and then I think it was her doctor who, Karen goes to check him, says, you need to get back on keto. You were better off before. So for some of us, there is a solution, which might be vegetarian or vegan or all foods, but in moderation. Some of us can moderate all of our food. If I'm forced to moderate my food intake of all sorts of foods, I can do it. I'm a grown, strong person, but I don't want to have the fight with my brain anymore. So I'm not going to do it. That's my goal anyway. But Karen has gone through this, and with the struggles with her husband's health situation, and she has towed the line. She has stuck with it. I think Karen's vegetarian daughter, when they were in the hospital with the husband, the daughter brought Karen hard-boiled eggs. Now that's a loving act for a vegetarian to bring someone else something to eat in the hospital that is not vegetarian. You got to love people like that. And that's the way we should all be. Supportive, non-judgy, and stick to it. Mother Hubbard writes, let's just say I watched a lot of your previous videos, and thanks to all of you, I made it through successfully. Excellent. Well, I hope whatever has been going on, you have emerged, either, having overcome whatever it is. You don't need to share what it is. We all have things. Karen writes, yes, I don't, quote, think about food anymore since I finally got off the whole food, plant-based chopping, cooking, etc. Right? It is for me, so much easier to cook, and it takes no time because there's not a whole lot of stuff. And I eat a lot less food than I used to, so there's even that. And our grocery expenses continue to go down 12-month over 12-month period. Every day I check it, and every day we're to the good, which we've been doing this a long time. Kimberly writes, I tried vegetarian. I only lasted for 2 days. I'm definitely a meat eater. I did you lasted probably longer than I, Kimberly. We did do juicing for a while. We got a high-end masticating juicer. That movie Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, or whatever it was called. Oh, that was very inspirational. I think he's an Aussie who is just, and he started juicing. So we did that. We bought the ginormous bags of carrots and spinach and kale and parrots, pears. And well, we gave the juicer to our son, and he probably sold it. Karen writes, oh no, Casey, I've pulled my daughter to the dark side. Bacon and steak. What? Well, interesting. How does she feel? That's very interesting to me. And I think a lot of people try vegetarian. It makes sense, right? It's like logical. Oh, vegetables are free food. That's what we've been told for decades. Free food, unlimited. Eat all the fruit and veg you want. As a matter of fact, you should get 5 servings in a day. First of all, what's a serving? Second of all, who made up that rule? Zoe Harcum researched it, and she came to the conclusion that it was in a board meeting in California with people represented from Nestle's, Coca-Cola, and the Vegetable Growers Association. Came up with the number. 7's too much. We shouldn't do 7. 3's not enough. 5 sounds good. People have 5 fingers. So anyway, but some people feel good on it. There are many paths that lead to the same destination. We have different blood types. Why should we all be the same for everything? We shouldn't. She's still a carb/sweet eater, but is slowly changing. Kimberly writes, where do you stand on eating fermented foods for gut health? I like fermented foods. I like coleslaw. I like pickles. I like yogurt. The fermentation process, by the way, eats the sugars, which is why yogurt is okay. Whole yogurt made with whole milk, but whole milk is still full of lactose. Well, processing the yogurt eats the lactose if you get whole milk yogurt, full fat yogurt. I don't worry about my gut health. I think we've invented a lot of stuff. And maybe the gut health problem is not lack of fermented foods, but a bunch of drumsticks, ice cream drumsticks, and French fries, and bloomin' onions, and chocolate-covered pretzels, and M&Ms. Maybe it's not the lack of fermented foods; it's the presence of just junk that our body doesn't want, doesn't need, not nutrition. So I don't worry about it. I used to have chronic ulcerative colitis. Not fun. Not had an episode since I started on January 8th, 2014. So that whole biome thing. I think if we just I live in not in the deep south. I live in the mid-Atlantic states, in the Piedmont area of North Carolina. Red clay and different types of clay, not red clay like you see in the cartoons or anything, but clay soil, heavy soil. And we had turf grass, we had lawnmowers, we did aerating, we tried to make the grass grow. Guess what? Grass doesn't want to grow in clay. And guess what? Clay doesn't want grass, turf grass. So we ripped it all out and put in a couple of little clumps of native wildflowers, which are all herbs, by the way. Herbs are wildflowers, but they're native and they're drought resistant. And we left them alone. Now we have a totally overgrown front garden, certainly of rotating. They do it themselves. The flowers bloom and then they send seeds. And some years the black-eyed Susans have taken over. Some years it's aster. The plants figure it out. The soil likes those plants. The plants like that soil. So that's an analogy for if I feed my gut food that the gut doesn't want, and the food is not nice to the gut, okay, what do I expect? But if I feed myself food that my body wants and can use, my body rewards me. So that's where I stop. I love pickles. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, one of the few, I don't eat many vegetables. I did a couple of weeks ago, patrons know about this, maybe it's now 3, 4 weeks ago. We were at Costco, got a Costco sized fixins for salads. And I really enjoyed it because I like salads and I like vegetables, but I'm not used to eating vegetables anymore because I don't eat much food. So I'm going to default to fatty sources of protein. And actually, my system did not like it. And I put on weight. And I'm sure that was because of the water. Our friend Rebecca commented because I was doing this on one of the morning snippets on Patreon. She commented, she says, you start eating a lot of food with a lot of fiber, your GI tract has to pull in a lot of water to process the fiber. And that's exactly what happened to me. But I do like pickles. So we get the petite baby dills, cold. They're a nice little crunch. I'll have 2 or 3 of them. Saves me. Great analogy about this away. Thank you. I kept working on that analogy. I kept trying to write it. I would share it with people, and okay, and I didn't get. Now we are still surrounded. We live in a nice residential neighborhood. Turf grass. And let me tell you what, the noise pollution that comes because of the maintenance that you have to do for turf grass, blowers, mowers, edgers, aerators, people putting out fertilizer. Some people in the neighborhood use the Mosquito Joe and they spray for mosquitoes, but that also, mosquitoes are pollinators, and pollinators love our front garden. We no longer own a lawnmower. First, we went from a gas powered lawnmower to an electric one, and then we sold that. So our maintenance, and by the way, I can pull up stuff because there are a lot of volunteer plants, and yeah, I need to do that. They're not weeds, they're just misplaced plants. Or ligustrum sprouting up everywhere, and crepe myrtle. They like it. So if you find yourself talking yourself down, running yourself down, let's put it that way, don't do that. Frame things in a way that, well, that didn't work. I guess I better change that. And don't say I need to do this every day for the rest of my life. Sometimes that's overwhelming. It's too big. Another analogy, if someone told you how many poopy diapers you were going to have to change if you had a baby, you'd never, no one would do it. And certainly not a second time. But you don't say, I'm going to have to change 10,000 poopy diapers. No, you say, okay, I'll change this poopy diaper. And next time there's a poopy diaper, I'll change that one. So we can break things down for ourselves if we are still challenged. One of the snippet topic suggestions from this past week was someone who wrote that they can't seem to get past 3 or 4 days of laying off the carbs. Why? This was the question. Why do I do this? Do you have any advice? And my advice was try to do it for 5 days. And then for one more day after that. And after a while, it just becomes, I do not have to struggle with the carbs. Yes, I see commercials. Or in a movie or a show, everyone's going to Chinese buffet with giant egg rolls. And my husband and I will look at each other and say, let's go get some Chinese, some full on Chinese buffet with egg rolls and noodles and fried rice. But we don't do it. We don't do it. And it's not a struggle to not do it. It gets easier. It really does. So stick with, give yourself some grace, and hold your own feet to the fire, because no one can do this for us except for us on an individual person. No one could do this for me other than me. And I'm the only person that's ever gotten in my own way on anything. To this day, there are things that I should be doing, and the only person stopping me is me. So I work on this. And there's no shame in that. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your day. Keep your carbs 20 grams or fewer. Eat fatty sources of protein and some full fat dairy if you want, and some limited amounts of non-starchy vegetables if you want. But don't eat if you're not hungry. Sometimes we have to learn what that actually feels like. And stop eating when you've had enough. And pro tip, eat slowly. Eat slowly. Shoveling food into one's mouth is a turnoff. It's not attractive, and it doesn't serve you well because you're going to eat more than you require, probably. Have a great weekend, everyone, writes Kimberly. And we will be thinking of you, Karen. And thanks for checking in, Mother Hubbard. Hope this week is a better week. And for you guys watching this on replay, consider joining us next Saturday at 10 a.m. Same place, same time. Ciao.